for the jury? Okay. All right, thank you. Be seated. Thank you. All right, your next question.
Thank you. Mr. Depp, who's Dr. Kipper?
Dr. Kipper is he's been my doctor ever since I'd met him in, I believe it was that May of 2014, around there in Boston.
And why were you connected with Dr. Kipper?
My sister Christy knew, of course, that I had been addicted to the opiates, and she was concerned, and she brought me his book and talked to me heart to heart and asked me if I would be willing to go through the detox.
And what was your answer?
Yes, of course.
And you mentioned Debbie Lloyd. Can you please explain to the jury who she is?
Oh, Debbie Lloyd is a nurse who my doctor, Dr. Kipper, had assigned to my case to be the to oversee the detox and deliver the medications to me that would help with my with the effects of withdrawal that one goes through, to essentially try and knock you out so that you don't go through the nastiness of the affair.
Did Miss Lloyd stay on after the detox process as your nurse?
Yes, she did.
And when you were under Dr. Kipper's care, how often did you see Miss Lloyd?
On location every day. Yes, on location every day. Even when after a year or two, I was still seeing her at least on a bi-weekly basis, 2 to 3 times a week.
When did you start the detox process that you mentioned?
I know that I believe it was in August, July or August of 2015, 14, I cannot remember the year, 14, I guess.
And where did you do this detox process?
We did the detox process happened on, I have a place in the Bahamas. I'm never comfortable saying this, but it's an island. It's a very strange thing to say. But I thought that that would be the best place, the most private place where there were no worries of paparazzi or any of that. So it was a place where I could literally be, the only place where I can have actual anonymity. So I thought that would be the best place to do it.
Who came with you down to the island for the detox? Nurse Debbie Lloyd traveled with me on the plane. Ms. Hurd. And I believe that was it. On the plane to go to the island for the detox. I was not bringing security. I was not bringing assistance. In fact, initially, my sister Christy was going to go there to help Ms. Lloyd and the doctor through the detox, which made perfect sense since that the whole thing had been born out of her desire for me to get clean. So initially it was supposed to be Christy coming in place of Ms. Hurd. There was a great part of me that was very uncomfortable with Ms. Hurd coming along for that detox, because as things could fluctuate very rapidly in our relationship, I was wary that those things would come up during what needed to be a very straight detoxification of these substances. And I was well aware that it was not going to be pleasant. I was well aware that I was going to go through quite a bit of physical changes, physical yes, I was afraid that it would be too much for her, and I also felt that she might be too much for me at the time. So then why did Ms. Hurd come down to the island with you during the detox process?
She insisted. She switched places with Christy.
Could you please describe for the jury, Mr. Depp, what it feels like to go through a detox from opioids?
I would say the best way to describe it is it feels like it feels like the inside of you, the very inside of you, is trying to escape the body. So it becomes obviously very physical, and so therefore you'll go into a withdrawal would mean that you would go into you'd have immense cramps in your stomach, your muscles would seize, my body would shake. The pain is like nothing I've ever experienced before. Part of it was, so the best way to explain it, for example, there was a situation that when we were on the island and I was going through the detox, and it was hitting pretty hard at that point. And Ms. Heard had made a deal with Nurse Debbie and Dr. Kipper to stay at their end of the island, and that she would administer the drugs to me, administer the medications that I needed to not go into for lack of a better word, these intense, sharp, painful heebie-jeebies. And there was a moment when I could feel my body starting to tense, and I could feel the withdrawals coming on, and they come on quick, and they're not discreet. They go straight for the jugular. I mean, like I said, when your receptors are in full bloom and begging for the substance, the drug, the opiates that my body had become used to, these receptors that were being fed by. There was a moment when it was coming on very fast, and I was sitting on the couch in the little house that we all saw on the island. Miss Heard was at she was in the sort of kitchen area, and she was chopping vegetables, I remember. And I think it was around 2:30 in the afternoon, and the effects of the withdrawals were really coming on. And I said to Miss Heard, I'm going to need the meds now. And she said, she looked at the clock and she said, "It's not time." And I said, no, you don't understand. This is not about clocks and watches and things. I'm going into the ship, and it was visible. And I hate saying this, and I hate to have to admit this, but that was, I believe that was about the lowest point in my life. That was the lowest I'd ever felt as a human being, because I had to say, please, may I have the meds, because it's really kicking in. And she was adamant, no, it's not time, it's not time. So in explaining how these withdrawals start to take over your body, when I was begging at that point for the meds, I found that I had sort of rolled off the couch, and I was sitting on the floor crying. I mean, tears streaming down my face, begging another human being to please give me the meds that will take this away. And she would not. She was adamant that, nope, it's not time, 4 o'clock. So the only thing that one can do in that situation is you have to trick the body. You have to
you have to manipulate your body out away from those, well, you have to trick the body to get away from the receptors. So the only thing that one can do is you go straight to the shower, and you put it on scalding water, and you stand underneath the scalding shower, and essentially you're burning the top, your skin is burning from the heat of the water. And what that would do is it would trick the nerves away from the receptors, because they had an immediate problem that needed to be dealt with, the nerves. So what it does is the scalding shower would reverse those nerve endings, and they would go up to the top of the skin, because there was a problem there. So that's how I was able to bypass those withdrawal symptoms at times. It doesn't fully take them away, but what it does is it tricks your body into thinking that there's something going horribly wrong on top, so it keeps them away from the receptors. After that, I had a conversation with Nurse Debbie and with Dr. Kipper, and I said, I don't believe, I told them that she had denied me the meds when I was in need, and then I told them that I don't think that this is going to work here anymore. I think we have to leave the island, and I need to be, she can't be with me while I'm going through the rest of this detoxification. So I told them we should leave the island. I asked them if they understood what I was doing, and they did. So we went back to Los Angeles, and then I asked Ms. Heard if she would please allow me 5 days, 7 days, whatever it took to get finished with the rest of this horrific detox and the pain.
Did Ms. Heard give you that time?
She did, reluctantly, yes. I was immediately accused of throwing her out. I was accused of abandoning her. I was accused of not appreciating all that she had done to get me to this point where I was, which was kind of an interesting argument for me. I begged her, please, can I get a place at the Beverly Hills Hotel? I'll get you and your friends a bungalow at the Beverly Hills Hotel where you can all stay together and have a grand old flag. You can have fun, you can do whatever you want, and you don't have to sit around Mr. Shaky. And she wasn't happy about it, but it was very necessary. So she did eventually leave for about five days or so, and I sat in after a few days, I sat in just a metal chair with one song on a loop, that I could focus on the lyrics and the power of the song to help me get through it. And even once the effects started to go away, that is the pain, I was still in this, something strange that happens.
you feel electricity in your body. You feel this electric, very foreign, and you're just sitting there like going through it. And I didn't understand what the electricity was until probably, and this lasted for, the electricity, that feeling lasted for a month, 2 months. And I finally realized at a certain point what that electricity was. And I was feeling, that's what it was. I was actually feeling without the aid of the drug, without the aid of any drugs. I mean, I'd had refused with Dr. Kipper and Nurse Debbie and Amber at the table before she left for the hotel with her friends. I had refused to continue taking the phenobarbital and the lithium because to me it was just another drug in the way. It seemed like it was just another hurdle to get over. And I would rather just get it out of my system now and move forward. Maybe I wouldn't have had the electricity. Maybe I wouldn't have felt as quickly, but I didn't want to take phenobarbital and lithium and Seroquel and Neurontin and all these other things. And the worst of the two, I believed, were the phenobarbital and the lithium. So I went through that. Lily Rose did not come to the wedding. she and Miss Heard were not on particularly great terms for several reasons. There were a number of Ms. Heard's friends and her family. So I'd say all in all, maybe there were, seems like there could have been no more than 20 people, 25 people, maybe.
Was there any alcohol served at the wedding?
Yes, there was alcohol served at the wedding. There was champagne. There was all the accoutrements, and then yes.
And was anyone ingesting any illegal drugs at the wedding?
Yes.
And who was doing that?
Well, there was a schedule that was written out and printed out and sent out, so that everyone would know exactly the time that everything would happen. And on that sheet, the schedule, there was like some kind of rehearsal type thing. There was also there was a great dilemma in who was going to be who. That's where the argument between Ms. Pennington and Io Tillett Wright.
Mr. Depp, who did you observe taking drugs at the wedding?
A number of people were taking MDMA. As I said, the list, there was after the wedding, there was it was like dinner, dancing, and drugs on the schedule that came from Ms. Heard and Ms. Pennington. So Amber, Raquel, a couple of friends of mine, Savannah, her assistant, Tillett Wright, all of her gang were all partaking of the MDMA.
What if any what if any drugs did you take that day?
Again, to be honest with you, I mean, I don't know how much MDMA they had, but for me, that was, for me to have taken MDMA would have been a waste of the drug. If you understand what I mean, it would have been essentially taking someone else's high, because it wouldn't have an effect on me.
So how many drugs did you actually take that day?
The day of our wedding,
Yes.
I smoked marijuana, and I don't remember drinking. I don't remember that I was drinking then. This was right. This was right before she was going to London to do, I believe, London Fields, and I was going off to Australia to do Pirates 5. I'm
pretty positive at that point I wasn't partaking of alcohol. My drug of choice is, or was, and it is marijuana. That's all that was fine for me.
When
So,
you and
so
Mr.
dipping into a little tiny baggie of, licking your finger and dipping into a little tiny communal bag of MDMA, it was pointless for me.
When you and Miss Heard got married, did you have a prenuptial agreement in place?
No, we did not, no.
And why not?
There always seemed to be some reason or another why she wouldn't discuss it, or if we did discuss it, it became an issue that would turn into it would springboard into unpleasantness and then arguments. And then it was also too late. At a certain point, it was just too late. So then the idea of a post-nup agreement was brought up to Miss Heard, and that was in Australia. That was the beginning of the Australian
Well, let's
fight.
talk about Australia then. But first of all, why were you in Australia?
I was working on Pirates of the Caribbean 5.
And who from your team was with you in Australia?
Jerry Judge, Malcolm Connolly, Nathan Holmes, Stephen Duders, Keenan Wyatt. I believe that was it. Oh, and yeah, no, that's it.
Was Miss Lloyd in Australia with you as well?
Oh, yes, sorry, yes. Miss Lloyd traveled to Australia with us.
And did Dr. Kipper come down to Australia at any point?
Yeah, Dr. Kipper came down a bit later.
Mr. Wyatt testified yesterday that he observed you have a meeting with Sean Bailey in Australia. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And could you please tell the jury who Sean Bailey is?
Sean Bailey, at that time, I believe he was the number three man at Disney in terms of hierarchy. He was upper echelon Disney, so he was under Bob Iger, and initially under Dick Cook, who was removed from Disney for some reason. So yes, he was number 3 man at Disney.
And why were you having a discussion with Mr. Bailey?
The discussions that I was having with Mr. Bailey, with Sean Bailey, were they had to do with, well, as I think we've established, I have always, from the beginning of that series of films, I had always rewritten my character's words and jokes, if you will, and situational comedy and things that I would add. And Mr. Bailey was very complimentary about some of the things that I'd done. He'd come over to me laughing after
Objection.
a take.
Calls for hearsay.
Your Honor, this is just discussing generally what they were talking about.
He was getting specific. I'll sustain that if you want to continue. That's fine.
Mr. Depp, was Miss Heard in Australia with you?
She came a little later, yes.
Do you recall when she came down?
I don't recall. Well, no, I do recall. It was March. It was March.
And what happened when Miss Heard came to visit you in Australia?
Ms. Heard was upset because, as I stated earlier, as it was too late for a prenup agreement, there was discussion of post-nup agreement. And I had called my lawyer at the time and asked him if he could have one of his lawyers sit down with Ms. Heard and give her a basic rundown of what a postnuptial agreement meant, and I was told that they showed her.
Objection, hearsay.
Your Honor, this is something he asked an attorney. It's not a statement of fact that's being offered for its truth.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
What did Ms. Heard tell you she was upset about when she arrived in Australia?
Ms. Heard told me that the attorney that she met with was rude and dismissive, and all she was being shown was an example of a postnuptial agreement. Ms. Heard then stated to me that she was very upset. She stated to me that what she had said was, she said to the lawyer, the woman, that this Johnny can't, he must not, he doesn't know about this. He's never seen, he doesn't know that this is what this is. No way he would agree to this. And what Ms. Heard then expressed to me was that the lawyer, the woman, had laughed at her and said, "Oh, he knows. Yes, he knows everything." Which sent her into a tailspin. So by the time she arrived in Australia, that was sunk very deep into her psyche. I mean, so much so that what really surprised me was that she kept saying, "I'm not even in your will. I'm not even in your will." I thought that was an odd thing to say. Especially since I don't think anybody had had time to change wills or anything of that nature. So those things just didn't, it felt wrong. And she could not let go of the fact that I was in on this post-nup agreement, and that I was trying to trick her into essentially getting nothing if something were to happen.
And how did you respond to Ms. Heard?
So I just told her those were not my intentions, you know. And at a certain point, you don't know what to do. I mean, the person is telling you, she's telling you, you don't trust me, you don't trust me, you don't trust me, and I can't speak about legal documents. I can't speak legalese. I can't explain to her these things. All I could do was try to calm her down and say that I was not out to screw her over or put her in a position that was uncomfortable.
Did that work?
These were stock, normal things to do. It did not work, no. It escalated and escalated and turned into madness, chaos,
Can you please
violence.
Can you please describe that chaos and violence?
Yes, she was irate. She was irate, and she was possessed. And when I tried to remove myself, as I normally would from a situation, and that is to say, you know, as she's hammering me with sort of brutal words and I don't, pardon my language, but I remember that it wasn't nice sort of being called an ass kisser to lawyers or a pussy that didn't fight for her or stand up for her. I, again, tried to remove myself from the situation, but to no avail. As I literally, the house that they had rented for me in Australia was quite a large place. It was quite a bit of a labyrinth, you know, and a lot of rooms, a lot of extra rooms. So I would go to, well, I'll just cut to the chase. I think that I ended up locking myself in about at least 9 bedrooms, bathrooms that day, as she was banging on the doors and screaming obscenities and wanting to have a physical altercation.
So how did it come to be that your finger became injured?
There was at one point where I'd stayed in one of the, sitting on a bathroom floor, door locked, she's banging away, screaming, blah, 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 and then suddenly she stopped, and I could hear her walk away. I could hear her sort of receding into the distance, if you will, and I yes, yes, it became very emotional because you can't win for losing. There was nothing I could do to make her understand that I had, if that lawyer had in fact done that, and I did call my lawyer at the time, Jake Bloom, and I had him get these people on the phone, and I'm ashamed to say that I had taken, at that point when I was on the phone with him, I had taken Miss Heard's words to heart, and I laid out a ration of I was very upset that she was pushed to that limit because I had believed it. And in fact, none of it had happened. So it was all getting too crazy. And again, I had been sober for many, many months from alcohol and substances, aside from the marijuana. And I left the place, the room that I was hiding in, or not hiding, locked myself into, and I went downstairs in the house. Downstairs in the house, as soon as you walk in the house, you can go upstairs or downstairs. Downstairs there was a sort of a rec area, pool table and such, and there was a bar. And I was a mess. I was a wreck. I was shaking, and I just didn't understand why all this was happening. So I went behind the bar. I grabbed a bottle of vodka that was there and a shot glass and sat at the bar. She was nowhere around. And I poured myself 2 or 3 stiff shots of the vodka. First taste of alcohol I'd had in a long time. And then she came down to the bar and found me there. And of course started screaming, "Oh, you're drinking again, the monster," and all that. So she walked up to me and reached and grabbed the bottle of vodka, and then just kind of stood back and then hurled it at me, and it just went right past my head and smashed behind me. So I stood up and I walked behind the bar, and there was a larger bottle of vodka, the kind with the handle, on it. I grabbed that and I went and I sat in my seat again. I opened the bottle and I poured myself a shot and drank it. Miss Heard was flinging insults left, right, and center, and she then grabbed that bottle and threw that at me. And the way that the bar was situated and where Miss Heard was, so if I could show you, so if this is the bar where the glass was and the bottles, if this was the bar and I'm sitting here like this, she would grab the bottle and she would go there. She went there. And so I was leaning like this in the chair, looking at her. First bottle went, then got the other bottle, shot, takes the second bottle, which was the larger one. I'm in this position again, and my hand is on the edge of the bar, like that, leaning over, the fingers like that, and she threw the large bottle, and it made contact and shattered everywhere. And I honestly didn't feel the pain at first at all. I felt no pain whatsoever. What I felt was, I felt heat. I felt heat, and I felt as if something were dripping down my hand, and then I looked down and realized that the tip of my finger had been severed, and I was looking directly at my bones sticking out, and the meaty portion of the inside of your finger, and blood was just pouring out, And at that point, I think that I went into some sort of, I don't know what a nervous breakdown feels like, but that's probably the closest that I've ever been. Nothing made sense. And I knew in my mind and in my heart, this is not life. This is not life. No one should have to go through this. And as I said, this feeling of nervous, being in the middle of some sort of nervous breakdown, I started to write with my blood, in my own blood, on the walls, little reminders from our past that essentially represented lies that she had told me and lies that I had caught her in. And then the next thing, you know, amongst all the madness, I would again hide in bathroom or wherever, and I texted Dr. Kipper and I said, you might want to come over. You know, I've cut my finger off here.
Which finger was cut, Mr. Depp?
It's the middle, it's the funny looking one. It's the middle finger here. You can see you can see all the sort of, from the initial wound, all these bones up here were crushed, and it looked like Vesuvius, you know. And so this part of my finger now is, so that because of not having use of the tip here, this is basically arthritis that kicks into the joint once that upper part of the finger is mangled.
So is that the right middle finger?
Right middle, yes.
And is that your dominant hand?
Yes, it is, yes.
Mr. Depp, after Ms. Heard threw the vodka bottle at you and severed your finger, what, if anything, did she say when she saw the injury?
I don't recall anything, but just, it was almost like white noise, just someone yelling. It was just a high-pitched, constant attack of insults. It was just jumbled words to me in a very high frequency, and I was in a bit of shock, you know. I was in shock.
You mentioned that you reached out to Dr. Kipper. Did you receive medical attention after that?
Yes. Jerry Judge, Malcolm Connolly, I believe Debbie Lloyd was there. Yes, Debbie Lloyd was there. Ben King had arrived as well.
Who is Ben King?
Ben King he's essentially, he's a house, sort of an estate manager, and we'd worked together in London a few times, and he's a wonderful guy. So I brought Ben along to Australia to manage everything. He's very, very good and very nice. And then there was also yeah, I mentioned Malcolm and Jerry. Yeah, they were there as well.
Which, if any, of the medical professionals that you saw that day did you tell what happened to your finger?
When Malcolm and Dr. Kipper, when they took me to, first we went to Malcolm's apartment where he was staying while we were shooting the film, and tried to clean my hand because I had worked the day before, and obviously when you're playing pirate, Captain Jack or whatever, you're covered. They paint with alcohol, with rubbing alcohol. They paint dirt all into your hands and into your face and everything. So they were worried about getting my finger clean. So they tried doing that at Malcolm's. And then Kipper said, no, we got to get to emergency room, and we got to get hold of the tip of his finger. So we went to the emergency room. The doctor asked me what happened, and I lied to him. I said that I had smashed it in these large accordion doors, that it got caught in the accordion doors.
Why would you lie about that?
I lied because I didn't want to disclose that it was what it was. I didn't want to disclose that it had been, I didn't want to disclose that it had been misheard, that it had thrown a vodka bottle at me and then took my finger off. I didn't want to get her in trouble. I didn't want to. I tried to just keep things as copacetic and as easy as possible for everyone. I did not want to put her name in that mix.
Did you tell Dr. Kipper what had actually happened to your finger?
Yes.
After you returned from the hospital, where did you go?
I went to Malcolm Connolly's apartment and slept on his couch.
And to the extent that you know, where was Ms. Heard during this time?
Ms. Heard was, I wasn't there, but it was clear that she needed to leave. And I'd asked them to get her on a flight from Melbourne or Sydney or wherever back to Los Angeles.
Why did you ask for that?
I didn't want to see her. I didn't want to see her. I didn't want to have any more arguments. I was, for all intents and purposes, I was just done.
Mr. Depp, I'd like to show you a picture. If we could please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 145. Mr. Depp, what is this a picture of?
That is, that's me in the emergency room. I see a detail that I'd forgotten, which is Ms. Heard had pulled taken my cigarette from the ashtray and stomped it out in my face here.
Could you mark on the screen where you see that?
It's right above that green dot.
And do you know who took this picture?
I do not know.
Can we please publish this to the jury?
Do you want to enter into evidence?
Yes, please.
Any objection? No, Your Honor. All right, 145 in evidence. You can publish to the jury.
And so, Mr. Depp, now that the jury can see the photograph, can you again explain what that green dot is identifying?
Just above the, well, just above the green dot is a wound from Ms. Heard taking my cigarette, and this is after the finger had gone away, and she stubbed it out in my face and on my cheek. So that's the result of that.
If we could please take this down, and I'd like to show you, Mr. Depp, Plaintiff's Exhibit 144.
Yep, it's
What is this a picture of, Mr. Depp?
the remains of my finger.
And was this taken shortly after you were injured?
I believe this was taken at the emergency room, I'd imagine.
I'd move this into evidence, but I'd like to also warn the jury and the people in the
All right.
audience that this is a very graphic picture.
All right, any objection?
No, Your Honor.
All right, 144.
We can take this down. Thank you. Mr. Depp, how long after your finger was injured did you return to LA?
After the emergency room, the following day, I was sent to they'd found a surgeon in Australia, so that I could go. They wanted me to take X-rays taken and all that. So we went to that doctor, the finger surgeon, and he asked me what happened to my finger, and I again lied, and I stuck to the story that it was smashed in an accordion, a large accordion door. And he looked at me as if I were lying. And the next thing I heard was, "Sir, that is a wound of velocity." And
Objection, hearsay.
Your Honor, this is a communication in the context of medical treatment.
I'll sustain the objection. Moving on.
So Mr. Depp, this was a surgeon you saw in Australia.
yes,
When did you return to Los Angeles after seeing that surgeon?
I believe it was probably the next day, where it might have been Kipper or someone who had hooked me up with a wonderful, great expert in reconstruction of, hands, fingers, digits, whatever. So I went to see the surgeon, and we prepped for surgery, pretty quickly.
And what type of surgery did you have on your finger?
The majority of this was all missing, and essentially, to some degree, hollowed out, if you will, because the bone had shattered, and then there was the bone that was sticking out down there. So he had to do a skin graft from this part of my hand, and graft it onto my finger to give me a finger again.
Anything else that was done to your finger to stabilize it?
I don't think it was initially that they put the pin in. I think the pin, feels like the pin came later. I'm not sure, but you just, I had to go after the surgery. It was bandaged up, and they give you all kinds of things on what to do, what not to do, keep it elevated or this or that, and I just walked away with a very large middle finger. It was all wrapped up to like this, and then, medicated. They've given me shots in there and such.
How long did you wear that bandage that you just described?
Well, the bandage was from the time of the surgery all the way through the remainder of finishing Pirates of the Caribbean, which was, I think I finished, the injury took place in March. Finished Pirates of the Caribbean 5, I believe, in August, beginning of August, end of July.
And you
So
had
there
it-
was a bandage on it the whole time. What I had to do was wear, because of, there's a special effects trick that they had planned. Basically, whatever bandage I had on, as long as they could, they would put little green dots, for example, on the splint and the finger and all that, and the bandages, so that in post-production they could use what's called computer-generated imagery, CGI, to erase the bandage and replace it with a normal finger. That's how we finished the film.
If we could please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 61. And if we could scroll to the second picture, or third. Can you keep going one more, please? Another. Sorry, this is a series of pictures, and to spare everyone, I don't think I'll show you the immediate injury again. This was one right here. Thank you. Mr. Depp, do you recognize this picture?
Yes, I do.
And What's reflected in this picture?
This was taken in the surgeon's office, where I'd go in, well, I had to go in every few days to have it checked out for infections and such. And so the finger, non-finger, was wrapped quite heavily, and there was this medicated, kind of greasy medicated thing on top of the wound itself. And this, I believe, seems like when the pin was in here, and the wrapping is, the bandage is, well, I had my choice, you know, and I thought, well, may as well take the kiddie bandages, you know, dinosaurs and hearts and unicorns. As I said, you know, at least have some humor to deflect the pain.
Your Honor, I'd like to move Plaintiff's Exhibit 61 into evidence.
Do you want the whole exhibit or just this picture?
If we could publish the whole exhibit.
You want the whole picture, the
Yes.
whole exhibit? Any objection to 61?
No, Your Honor.
All right, 61, but you just want to publish this part of 61?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So how long after your injury was this picture taken?
After the initial injury,
Yes.
I'd say no more than, it would seem to me, no more than 5 days, a week.
And how long was this bandage on your hand for?
Well, I was wearing bandages all the way up until I finished the film, and then yeah, up through August for sure, and then beyond, I had to keep it. I had to keep it covered. I had to keep it protected.
Do you recall how long after the injury that how long after the surgery the pins were removed from your finger?
I would say maybe, I think it was about 2 or 3 days, because I remember that there was, maybe more, but I just remember that the pain seemed to be getting worse and worse as Debbie would rate it, you know, from is this an 8 out of 10? Is this a 3 out of 10? That kind of thing. At a certain point, it became kind of a 12 out of 10, because it felt hot, very, very, very hot, and it felt there was throbbing. It was like it was throbbing, and the pin in there. It was like I could feel the pin in there. So we'd called the surgeon. I called the surgeon, told him. Actually, I think it might have been Debbie Lloyd actually called, but I knew I had to see the surgeon again because something felt very wrong, and I went there, and he removed all the bandages, and he found that that my finger was indeed infected, and that I had contracted MRSA, MRSA, which is like I believe it's like the flesh-eating disease or something. But it was a pretty grotesque sight. After that, with the pin in, and what they had to do to save it.
Mr. Depp, while your finger was injured and healing, did you ever take any opiates during that time?
No, ma'am. No more.
Your Honor, I'm about to switch gears, so if
All right.
it makes
We can
sense to
do
take our lunch break.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and take our hour lunch break. Come back at 2 o'clock. Just make sure you do not discuss the case and do not do any outside research, and we'll see you at 2. And again, sir, since you're still testifying, you cannot discuss your testimony with your attorneys or with anybody else, okay? All right. See everybody at 2? All right, thank you.
Thank you.